Sorry we didn't have time to get everyone's questions answered, but it would have been going on, and we want to let people go home. So Courtney's going to do the wrap up here, and I want to thank you all for coming, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you all again for coming, and thank you, Kathleen, so much for enlightening us about some of the more complicated provisions of this bill. As we all know, Congress is going to be acting on this when they come back from recess early next month, and the insurance companies and what we used to call loyal opposition are now making their voices heard, and it's important for Congress to hear from us as well. On your chairs or at the ends of your aisles, you're all going to find some materials that we passed out, and one of those materials that you'll see is a blank sheet of paper. And we're asking all of you for just a few minutes before you leave here tonight is to write a quick handwritten note to Senator Carper in support of health care reform this year, in support of a public health insurance option, and some of the key things that you heard about tonight. So few people write handwritten notes anymore. One of the things, people ask, can I call, can I email, email is basically what people ask about. A handwritten letter is really worth 100 emails, 100 phone calls. So if all of you will take that time, we're going to deliver them en masse next week. And Michelle and Darlene are putting up some tips for letter writing and a sample note to Senator Carper to give all of you some ideas. And if you could do that before you leave tonight, folks in the back of the room will be collecting them, and we'd appreciate it.
Can everybody see this? Well, how about if I read it? And then, I think one of the things that Courtney pointed out is while you can talk about some of the key concepts that we talked about, you heard Kathleen talk a lot about a public option. I think most folks are comfortable with what that is now. As Kathleen pointed out, we at AFSCME do not think that your health insurance benefits should be taxed, so that's one of the talking points we use. I leave that up to your discretion if you share that opinion with us. Making it personal. One of the things that we found in doing this work, and I think that folks have talked about this, is you don't have to go to your neighbor 3 houses down to have a health care story. Everybody in their family has a health insurance story, so you can make it personal. What this letter says, it says, Dear Senator Carper or Representative Castle, if you could write 2, that would be great, but if you want to write 1, you can write it to Senator Carper. It says, I'm one of 72% of Americans who support a public health insurance option that competes with private insurance companies to keep them honest and to lower costs. As a hardworking Delawarean with employer coverage, if that applies to you, I also oppose the taxation of my benefits. Please act on these measures when you return to Washington. And then you would sign your name and print your name and your address, because they do check these things to make sure you are who you say you are. And then any other thing you want to put in there about your particular story. We heard a great story from a small business person. I think that's a very compelling story. But everybody, believe me, there isn't a person that I've talked to who you can't get going talking about a health insurance story. So tell your story.
Any questions?
Can you describe next Monday's event or the event?